What's up, Chaos Shinobi here. This is what if Naruto has evolved Mangekyou. Summary: Naruto unlocks an evolved Mangekyou when he is experimented on with cells from Uchiha Madara Watch as Naruto learns to harness this incredible power and control the blackest twins with his new eyes. Chapter 6: The start of an epic journey. The rain splashed against the window as droplets streamed down the fog-translucent screen, mirroring the actions of tears. A clash of thunder, a flash of lightning, the rain echoed querulously with the wind. The rattling of trees juxtaposed the sympathetic fallacy that such a mood seemed to create. And an old man sat solemnly in the comfort of his home in the midst of it, his knowing eyes peering into space with a tired and unfathomably sad glow. An ethereal blue light faded from his eyes as his face seemed to age several years. Picking himself up on the old sinews he called legs, he crept towards the furthest part of his home with a limp gait. Each step seemed to weigh down the entirety of his body with eternal sadness, as if some odious dust had been picked up with his feet in his earlier days, never settling to the hammer of time. Yet as the man took each step, resolve also seemed to grow in his eyes and the smallest spark began to blaze. Taking off his shirt, he revealed numerous burns and scars along the course of his surprisingly muscular body. With a firm hand, he gripped a steel hammer and swung it down with all his might. The thunder echoed the action. Naive dream. It was but a hopeless dream, that you could find safety here. I'm sorry, young Naruto. In the end, both of our souls could not be saved with just time. But I haven't given up hope yet. You will take your path and carry my future with yours. I will die with your sins and hopefully, give you a chance at freedom. So don't lose yourself tonight. A flash of blue shined in his eyes before quickly disappearing. A satisfied smile etched upon his figure as he lifted the hammer one last time. I have seen it, you'll be the one. Ooh-oh. Rip. Tear. Hate. Destroy. Kill. Obliterate. Annihilate. Naruto repeated the mantra with increasing ferocity as his mind was overcome with images too horrid to spill with his mouth. Tears that should have fallen drowned in his beast-like roar while any feelings of mourning were overtaken by rage. The rain splashed against drenched hair. The suit he had originally worn disheveled and transformed into a madman's suit. In a small corner of his mind, he knew it was wrong to take revenge. But it was easier and more satisfying this way. In the end, he was a ninja. The time he had with Hayami and Gen had dulled that thought. For a while, he had almost believed that he could have given up training, given up his thoughts of revenge and instead turned to the crafts and make a living as a normal person. But he had fooled himself, and fate had given him his punishment. His curse would never disappear, his eyes would never see the light. He would find no sanctuary here nor anywhere else. Clenching his fists, blood spilled from wounds that sealed themselves before they were noticed, and he ran as fast as he could towards his current destination, the foolish human known as Gato. The rain had decreased visibility, but under his Sharingan the path was as perceptible as the clouds before a storm. His footsteps made no sound as he jumped from roof to roof, until they stopped altogether in front of a giant, lit warehouse with the large numbers 203 on them. Breathing heavily not from exhaustion but from an increased surge of epinephrine, his eyes widened as he felt an uncontrollable power seize his form. Black chakra bubbled from his body as he cried out with more fury than the ongoing storm. Ooh-oh! Gato smugly smirked as he kicked the already downed Kesa. Using his cane, he smashed the man's head into the ground while his bodyguards watched. The man had not even resisted, saying that he would not fight to fulfill Gato's selfish ambitions. Of course, he had not taken kindly to that. Battering people around was so much more fun when they couldn't do anything about it. Sighing, Gato stepped back as he motioned for his men to untie him. Now, will you stay down like a dog and do what I say? It's meaningless to resist my campaign here. Kesa smiled painfully as he kneeled. This village is my home. I will do everything I can to protect it. No matter what the cost, I will do what is needed. Gato frowned as he slammed his cane against the man's temple. Furious, he was about to tell his men to kill the troublesome man already, but paused as he felt a wicked thought rise from his mind. I heard you're quite proud of those arms. Let's see how brave you are without them. Two giant men with equally gargantuan hammers smiled as they lifted their weapons above Kaze's head. The fisherman closed his eyes as he readied himself for the pain, when an unearthly scream suddenly blasted in from outside. Everyone stopped as they felt curiosity at the strange noise and another emotion. Fear. Gulping, Gato motioned to one of his men to go check what had happened. The man nodded and quickly went out the door into the rain. A strange noise suddenly befell their ears though as they all stepped a little closer to try to see what had happened. Suddenly, the man's head rolled back into the room, causing all of them to jump with shock. Slowly, the giant metal door creaked open as a drenched Naruto clad in black mist stepped forward. A wave of sable washed over them as the room filled with his chakra. A couple of men suffocated as they fell down due to the density of the energy. Yet, In a second, as if it had been an illusion, the mysterious black fog disappeared, leaving a young, sodden boy with dull blonde hair and flickering red eyes. Gato paused for a second before laughing. His laughter prompted his men to also come out of their fear as they all boisterously joined the action without any reason. Wiping his tears, Gato smirked as he tapped his cane on the floor. "You must be Uzumaki Naruto of the Jogan. What did you do to my man? Are you hiding a knife on you? That's pretty cowardly. Such an unkempt boy. No wonder your village wants you dead." Gato's smile turned into a sneer as he waited for the boy's response. Getting none, he stepped back behind his men as he yelled. "But you made a stupid move, brat. Even if I didn't know the guy, it wouldn't be good if I didn't pay you back for killing one of my hands. The bounty said dead or alive. I had been feeling nice earlier, but now, I think we'll take you in dead." Snapping his head toward the two giant men from before, he pointed at Naruto. "Take care of him and smash him good." The two men grinned as they stepped up to Naruto. Bringing their arms up to swing their hammers down, Kaiza finally snapped out of his shock as he tried to warn the boy. "Naruto! Run!" Kaiza and the rest of the people watched in disbelief as Naruto's arms suddenly flared with chakra and shot up to catch the hammers while they were still falling towards him. A second later, the giant metal mallets shattered as the boys' fingers dug trenches in them. At a loss due to their broken weapons, the giants looked at each other for a second. It was the last thing they would ever see. Making two clones, Naruto used his hands to plunge into the two men's abdominal cavities, crushing their hearts in the process. Not bothering to pause, the other two swept into action as they claimed their victims' lives mercilessly. The gravity of the situation finally fell on Gato as he saw his men fall victim to this monster, one by one. And as each man fell, his heartbeat grew louder and louder until its volume overtook his own hearing. Finished with the deed, Naruto stepped over the puddles of blood as his clones vanished. An endless stream of blood dripped from his pale hands as dirty rainwater and rancid crimson dyed his hair a frightful red. Stopping next to Kaido, his mouth opened slightly as he pointed to the door. "Get out of here and go home." Kaiza nodded as he stood up, despite his previous injuries, and limped towards the door. However, before he got out, he paused as he clenched his fists. "I have no business to say this, Naruto, but regardless of what I think is proper, I must say it." Taking a deep breath, he closed his eyes as he shouted. "Don't become a demon. You're a man who should protect, not kill." With that, Kaiza swung the door open and stepped into the cold rain, his back towards the scene as his teeth gritted with sadness. Gato looked at Naruto before laughing nervously. Standing up straighter, he grabbed onto the boy's shoulder as he tried to calm himself. "Ha! He's right. Don't kill me. I can give you money and anything else you want. Actually, become my own bodyguard. You can get anything you ever wanted. And you're young. I have a lot of things that I could do for you." And Gato stopped as he realized that the boy wasn't listening. Gulping, he was about to run away when the boy suddenly opened his lips and softly spoke. "Kaiza-san, I'm sorry. I'm not strong enough to be a hero like you." "No." Gato almost screamed out loud as Naruto's eyes sharpened to black and red. A menacing cross slanted into an X shape in the backdrop of his pupil. "At this point, I can only be a demon." Gato raised his hands in defense as his eyes stared into Naruto's spinning red ones. "Wait." "Mangekyou, Tsukiyomi." Gato wildly looked around as he felt an unbearable pain in his hands and feet. Tugging his limbs, he was met with even more pain. Upon closer inspection, he discovered that there were katana lodging him onto a wall of some sort. Blinking his eyes due to the pain, he noticed that everything else had disappeared and that there was only an endless expanse of water below him. Suddenly, Naruto appeared in front of him as he took out a long and wickedly shaped katana. "Welcome to my world of Tsukiyomi. For the next 72 hours, you will experience the most severe pain you have and will ever feel." Stepping up to him, Naruto slowly inserted the katana's tip into the man's eye as he felt the satisfaction of hearing him scream. Wrenching it out, he then proceeded to remove the man's digits one by one, allowing Gato's one eye to watch the process. However, right when he was about to collapse from the pain, it disappeared and the process repeated. Moaning, Gato's body shook with fear as he felt bile spill into his mouth. Mercy. Naruto's mouth twitched into a smile as he opened his mouth. 71 hours and 59 minutes to go. Think carefully about what you've done during that time. Gen sat down from exhaustion as he picked up the prize. He had sworn that he would never let anyone die by something made by his hands again, but this boy was the one that would change the future. As the greatest swordsmith of the 7 swordsmen of the mist, it was his duty to do this. A flash of blue entered his eyes once again as he lost himself in his bloodline. The power to see visions of the future was a heavy burden, but it was a necessary tool that needed to be used to guide the future in the right direction. His leaving Kiri had been a part of it, and now, His decision to give his greatest work to this boy was also essential. Flying through nebulous regions of stars and empty space, he felt the familiar tug of his bloodline as a certain light shined brighter than the others. Heading towards it, he was enveloped by a bright light and finally felt himself land on solid ground. Apparently, this was the scene in which he would give witness to. It was bright and in the desert. Off to his left, he could see a shadow moving towards him. It was strange to see such a figure, heavily cloaked in black, walking in what appeared to be the brightest place he had ever seen. But the brightness quickly turned to a different intensity as Gen's body started to feel the effects of the man's presence. A sudden coldness weighed upon him as he felt weaker as the man continued to step forward. Forcing his eyes to look at such a vast and evil being, he dropped to the floor as the man's face became clear. Covered in black chakra, the man was Naruto, though he was a good 7 years older. Now a fearfully handsome man, his face carried a certain cruelty that made even the wizened man shudder with fear. This is the future? The world is doomed. How can this be, that such a... Gen stopped in his thoughts as Naruto's face suddenly scowled at a new presence. Turning to his right, Gen froze as silent tears slowly started to stream down his face. A man around the same age as Naruto was standing opposite to him with a powerful radiance glowing off of him. Moreover, another dazzling figure, one he had only seen once in his entire life, was standing next to him. The radiance of the light battled the hellish dark as the archetypal battle of good and evil commenced. Closing his eyes, Gen felt himself come out of the vision as the sound of rain settled once again into his ears and the cold air of the shop filled his nostrils. Wiping his tears, he stood up with the sword in hand as he walked into the kitchen to await the boy's return. Looking up to the heavens, he looked at the remains of the statue of the goddess that had held the sword and smiled. So this is what you meant. Now, I truly give my hope and dreams to you, Naruto. May you find your true path. Though it isn't much, I hope that you will use this to fulfill your destiny. Your path will be unbearably difficult, but with her help, I have faith in you. Ooh-oh. Naruto walked towards the trash site in ominous harmony as the rain continued to wash the blood from his hair. Gato was dead. After being released Tsukiyomi, he had immediately stabbed his own throat. It was an incredible feat since Tsukiyomi was supposed to induce a comatose state. His desire to die had been so great that he had overcome his unconsciousness. But it was over now. Walking over to Hayami, he took off his coat as he placed it over her limp and cold figure. Holding her frail body in his arms, he finally dropped down to his knees in the mud and cried. The rain, splashing against his frozen red irises, intertwined with his tears in a requiem of agony and pain. Here, with Hayami's death, he would abandon all humanity and live as a shadow. He had killed her, his best friend, with his own hands. The greed of others were just catalysts to the event. It was his existence that caused harm to others. Burying his head into her shoulder, he closed his eyes as her white hair covered his face. If only he could hold her warm hand or hear that voice again. But it was impossible. Fate had dictated his life to an endless hell. The treatment from the villagers due to the QB, Shisui's death, Itachi's betrayal, his abandonment of the village, Hayami's death. He needed to get away and be alone. He realized that now. Only by himself could he possibly keep his heart at bay. He would never experience this again. No. He couldn't experience this again. Releasing all his anger, his sadness, and his memories, he let the rain wash it away as he finally stood up and began walking again. That day, a piece of him, the ability to love, died and withered with the trash laid haphazardly over the sunken and all too unstable ground of the site. Such was the true birth of Naruto of the Jogan. Walking up to the highest point in wave, he created a bunshine to hold her while he started to dig. His nails bled as the hard soil and debris tore through his skin, each clump of dirt sloshing behind him due to the intensity of the rain. He continued this process with an almost possessed air, his mechanical arms plowing through the already collapsing mud. But somehow, he finally managed to dig a proper grave. Taking Hayami's body from the cage bunshine, he hopped down into the prodigious hole and laid her down. This is the best I can do for you now. I'm sorry. Jumping out of the man-made trench, he slowly covered it back up with the soil. Each patch covered her pale face until her entire figure was eventually enveloped by the ground. Patting the surface, he then took 2 tree branches and smoothed them out by using chakra-formed blades coming from his fingers. Placing them on top to show that it was a grave, he then turned away as he walked back down the slope. And as he walked, the pouring rain cleansed the mud from his hands. Ooh-oh! Gen's eyes fluttered open as he felt a familiar yet frighteningly foreign chakra approach his door. The figure stood there for a while before the portal finally creaked open, revealing a soaked Naruto standing in the doorway. Naruto simply stared at the man for a second before heading towards. Before he took the first step up though, he quietly murmured a few words. Hayami and Gato are dead. I'm leaving. With that, Naruto headed upstairs to gather some belongings. Gen sighed as he rubbed his temples. He had already seen this vision earlier that night, but reality was always harder to deal with. A pain constricted in his heart as he looked at the sword in his hand. For a brief second, he wanted to run upstairs, hug the boy with all his might and tell him that it was okay, that things would get better, that he could stay here and try to carry on, but that was a foolish thought. To go against the visions of the Mikamura clan always resulted in a horribly damaged timeline. Moreover, if his vision came true, Naruto walked downstairs quietly with a small sack tied behind his back. Packing only a few spare changes of clothes, he had decided to travel lightly. Walking into the workshop, he was about to pick up some of his swords when Gen stopped him. "You won't need those." Naruto halted his movements as he looked back at the man. There was no question or demand in his eyes. They were simply blank. Taking a deep breath, Gen held back the pain in his heart and held the sword in front of him. "This is the greatest sword I have ever made. It was made as a holy sword in the streams that connect this world to the afterlife. Having no name, it has yet to find a proper owner. I made this 60 years ago and it is still the greatest piece I have ever forged." Taking it out of the deceivingly simple black metal scabbard, a sword with intricate glowing blue engravings rang out a song of pure power in the small workshop. Naruto's own icy blue ones locked onto the engravings as he felt a strange urge to suddenly hold it. Seeing his reaction, Gen smiled as he sheathed it and held it up for him to grab. However, it is not finished yet. As Naruto's hand grasped the sword scabbard, a violent wind broke out as the sword inside rattled. Naruto's eyes narrowed as he felt the sword shake with increasing energy and felt his own chakra being sucked into it. "I simply gave the sword a physical form. In actuality, this is Sakegari's katana, or Totsuka's sword. Originally a spirit sword meant for sealing, it almost took my life when I sealed it into this physical form." Naruto's head moved up to meet his eyes as he asked questioningly. "Then when you said that you had met that goddess when you were about to die?" Gen nodded as he closed his eyes. "It was my duty to pass this sword on to you. But even now, it is not finished. Only in the hands of its true owner." Naruto's eyes widened as the sword suddenly exploded in a flash of light, revealing two kadachi in each hand, one midnight black and the other a pure white. "Will the sword find its true form?" Looking at it closely, Gen smiled as he saw the insignia on the two blades. "The fox and the dragon. Fine inscriptions for fine weapons. But you'll need a scabbard for those. Wait just a couple of hours for me to finish them. You can leave at that time." Naruto nodded as he placed the swords on the table. Looking back at the old man, he slightly frowned as he saw him working hard on a raw piece of metal. "Aren't you going to ask any questions? Like why I'm leaving or what had happened?" Gen paused in his work for a second as he smiled at Naruto. "No. If you had wanted to tell me, I would have known. I understand that you've seen much. Your face, though it betrays your age, also sports one of the most painful eyes I've seen." Naruto bit back a smile as he remembered his first encounter with the old man. However, another sight then caught his attention as he frowned. "The statue you had made. It's in shambles." Gen smiled as he nodded. "It served its purpose. Never forget how it looked, Naruto. This, you must keep in your heart above all else." Naruto closed his eyes as he nodded. "That, I will do." Feeling fatigued from the night's activities, Naruto slowly let himself fall into a light sleep with the sounds of metalwork lulling him to rest. It would be his last, safe sleep for quite a while. "Ooh-oh." Gen wiped the sweat off of his forehead as he regained his bearings. At 82 years old, he wasn't exactly the strong youth he had been in his younger years. Making simple scabbards for ordinary swords would have been simple enough, but then again, these were no ordinary swords. Already, the swords had caused the table the boy had placed them on to melt under some unknown force. They were currently laying on the ground, burning the hell out of his wooden floor. Grumbling, he continued fortifying the scabbards with countless seals as he left them on the floor. Even if he had tried to pick them up, they would have probably just ended up burning him or whatever tool he used to pick them up with. Gen's sweat dropped as he saw the swords finally break through the wooden floor and fall to the ground below the house. Taking another mass of handy sutras, he slapped them on the scabbards as he molded them to the iron. It was a good thing he had a lot of these. Finally finished with the two scabbards, he set them up on the stand before pulling up his sleeves. With lightning speed he snatched them from the ground and placed them into their respective scabbards. Black blisters had already formed on his palms from the split-second action, but the sheaths were a success. Perfectly fitting the two swords, one weapon gleamed a menacing black, while the other shined a radiant white. Looking at the sleeping face of Naruto, Gen lightly placed the two swords in the boy's sack before heading upstairs. Taking one last look at the scene below him, he sighed as he felt the emptiness that came with Naruto's and Hayami's absence. When he woke up tomorrow morning, The two would never step back into the house with one smirking while the other blushed with simple happiness. Never would he hear the beautiful ringing of Naruto's metalwork, and never would Hayami's beautiful flowers grace his simple dining table. Things were fun while you were here, Naruto. You helped me more than you could ever realize. Even now, I think of you as a grandson. May you be the hero that I saw in my dreams. Goodbye, Naruto, and good luck with your journey. With that, Gen marched upstairs to his room, missing the slowly opening eyelids of Naruto. Thank you, old man. Ooh-oh. Naruto walked out of the old carpenter's shop for the last time as he headed to the topmost hill of the village. There, on a cliff looking over the entirety of Wave, he kneeled in front of the grave he had made for Hayami. I'm leaving now. I won't come back either, so I'm saying my goodbyes now. I guess this'll be the last time we'll ever see each other again, since you're probably in heaven right now. Pausing, he took out a white and yellow flower and laid them on the soil. While I was walking here, I saw these growing out from underneath a sakura tree. I couldn't get them to come out nicely like you did. But Naruto stopped as he closed his eyes. It was enough. Any more and the pain would return. It was time to leave and forget this place. By himself, he needed to follow his path and Naruto paused as a sudden shiver ran through his spine. Time stopped for a second as he felt a warmness flood his entire being. That voice was. Turning around, his eyes widened as he saw Hayami running towards him with her hands waving. Naruto, where are you going? Naruto couldn't move his mouth as he felt numb. Not trusting his voice, he opened his mouth and softly whispered, "Ha, Hayami?" And then, in an instant the break of dawn fell upon him as he blinked. Hayami was gone and the sun was now coming up. Rubbing his eyes, he smiled as he bent down and looked at the two flowers. They were coiled around each other in a beautiful ensemble of white and faint yellow, glowing in the rising sun. Brushing his hand over the flowers, he stood up as he turned his back on the grave and strode out to the village's gate. He still had a mission to fulfill, only this time, he was not alone. True, he had lost his capacity to love others that night, but he had instead gained two pillars that would support him for all eternity. Taking out his twin Kadachi, he pulled out the black sword as he bit his finger. Drawing kanji across the blade's surface, the Kadachi gleamed a glorious black with a crimson red at the base of the blade. Doing the same to the other, the blood shifted colors to a permanent red as he looked at them in resolution. You, on my left, black with the power of the greatest fire shall be called Gen. Looking at his right, he smiled as he looked upon the brilliant kanji. You, the protector of my right, white in the purest sense, shall be called Hayami. Sheathing the two once again, the Kadachi shook with satisfaction at the names. The light of his eyes changed as dullness turned to a sharpness fiercer than any blade. A resolve poured into his eyes as he saw his path laid out before him. In the end, Wave, a poor and backwater country, had taught him a special lesson: resolution. Feeling the already familiar weight of Gen and Hayami on his back, he walked down the slope as he left the grave. No, he would never be alone from now on. Ooh-oh. Naruto's steady footsteps slightly pushed against the moist path as he passed through the main street. Out of the corner of his eyes, he saw people hiding behind store booths with a look of fear in their faces. Closing his eyes, Naruto smiled as he walked undeterred. Of course, no one had had any idea that he had been capable of doing such a thing. To them, he had simply been the village prodigy that had showed some promise in carpentry. Walking to the end of the village, he noticed that the people were following him with a cautious air about them. Naruto. The boy stopped as he heard a familiar voice resound behind him. Turning around, his black cloak swished behind him as he looked at the first man he had acknowledged after coming into the village. Keza. The fisherman nodded as he stepped up to Naruto and put a hand on his shoulder. I don't approve of what you did to Gato. Murder is not a deed that should be carried out, even if the person deserved it. Naruto remained silent, his own ideals held from breaking free from his tongue due to the respect he held for the man. But know this, Uzumaki Naruto. You, above all of us, have the power to be a true hero. With that strength of yours, you can stand with justice. Even if your actions were wrong. Keza bowed head first as he kneeled on the ground. You are always welcome to come back. At that time, we will accept you with open arms. Until then, remember us and know that you are not alone in this world. Naruto stared upon Keza's figure impassively before stooping down to touch the man's shoulder. Your thoughts? I will remember them. Turning to go, he was stopped by yet another person. Wait, Uzumaki-san. A portly man ran forward with a giant bag in his hands. Running up to Naruto, he panted heavily as he put it on the ground. Here, I brought you apples for your journey. You'll be hungry, won't you? Naruto paused in surprise at the unexpected kind gesture and smiled. Thank you, but I will have just the one. Picking a red apple from the bag, he tucked it into his pocket as he continued on his way. not turning back to see the bowing figures of every villager behind him. 2 weeks later, Sasuke looked at Iruka with disbelief as he clenched the sides of the table. Sure, he had promised Kakashi that he would wait and take the normal road to becoming a ninja, but this new policy was ridiculous. Iruka coughed in nervousness from the sheer number of glares as he resumed his speech. Well, yes. Therefore, the council and the Hokage have decided to make the graduation age from the academy 14. So those of you who wish to continue your ninja careers will have to stay in the academy for 4 more years. Kiba, a rowdy child the same age as Sasuke, yelled as he slammed his fist on the table. That's not fair, Iruka-sensei. Why do we graduate later? Iruka's eyebrow twitched as he grabbed a nearby newspaper and rolled it into a stick. Slamming the chalkboard, the classroom suddenly became quiet as Iruka sighed with relief. Thank you. As for you, questioned Kiba-kun, this new policy had been decided after the horrible failure of the last Chunin exam. Sakura, a vehement fangirl of Sasuke's with a fair amount of intelligence in book matters, raised her hand as she asked quietly. But isn't that the fault of the Jounin instructors? Iruka nodded. Yes, your Jounin sensei is supposed to work with your individual talents and help you develop as more specialized ninja. But the council wants their students to be prepared beyond the basics of ninja techniques before becoming Jounin. Therefore, you will now finish the previous requirements for passing the original test by the age of 12. After that, for the next 2 years you will be trained in more advanced techniques with a greater level of training. To enter these next 2 years, only the best will be chosen. Think of it as getting an extra preparatory class. But be wary, everyone. Even if it's still a part of the academy, the training is only for those who are able to have the potential for being strong ninja. In the entire 10-year-old class, only about 20 children will have the privilege of entering the advanced classes. Sasuke frowned as he leaned back on his chair. He would have to find out the true meaning of this from Kakashi later. There was always a meaning underneath the underneath. Well, now that that's done, let's review the henjutsu. The class collectively groaned as they lined up to show their techniques. If only there were a prankster to make the class more interesting. Ooh oh! Naruto's hand shot up as he crushed several mosquitoes with his bare hands. After 2 weeks of traveling, he had finally made it into Kuza's territory. But the place, contrary to the simple name of grass, was more like a jungle. Already he had killed about 20 centipedes that were bigger than him, 200 mosquitoes, 17 unknown insect species that used a strange poison for melting things, and a foolish monkey who had tried to steal his apple. Even worse was the fact that the foliage was too thick to run through while the trees were too flimsy to jump from. Coupled with the muddy terrain that sank with each step, the place had definitely become his least favorite place in the last couple of days. Cutting a nearby tree with his chokudo, he didn't want to use Gen or Hayami for such a trite matter. He trudged forward. He was almost tempted to burn down the entire forest in a blaze of Amaterasu, but that would lead to his discovery by Kuzanin. Slipping past poisonous insects and spiders, he pulled out his map as he tried to find his location. Tucking it into his pocket, he shot a packet of chakra to his feet and jumped as high as he could. Passing the several levels of foliage, his head finally peaked above the tallest trees. Turning his head rapidly, he spotted the parts of tall buildings to his east, just 6 kilometers from his position. Rejuvenated at the prospect of finally reaching the city, he resumed his slow journey with more energy in his step. 6 vengeful monkeys and 6 deaths later. Pushing himself through vines, he finally broke free from the maddening forest and walked up to what appeared to be the village gate. The outside looked familiar to Konoha. A giant circular wall enclosed the town while an impervious wooden door guarded the entrance. Remembering that he was a wanted criminal, Naruto hinged his face and put another genjutsu over it, making him look more like a teenager with long dark blue hair. Unintentionally, he had changed into Shisui's form. Walking up to the door, 2 ninjas suddenly melted out of the wall as they stopped him. "Who's there?" Pulling out every ounce of acting talent he possessed, Naruto panted with fake exhaustion as he dropped to his knees. "I come from a nearby village. Our town was raided by bandits, so we took our belongings and ran away. Since Kuza was the nearest village, I tried to come here." The first guard sympathetically tried to step forward, but was stopped by the second one. "Wait. What village were you from and how did you get through this forest in the first place?" Naruto bowed his head as he recalled the map in his mind with his photographic memory. "It was Haru village. Out of all the farmers there, I was the one with the most talent in fighting. I had tried to fight off the bandits, but was finally forced to run away after they took the village. My family was also..." Tears threatened to leak out of Naruto's face as he hit the floor with his fist. "Anyways, since I was alone, I thought that I would come to this village. Also, Naruto smirked as he felt them falling for his trap. "Also, I heard that Kuza is in need of blacksmiths. I can work for a little bit in return for my stay here. The Kuza ninja's suspicion rose as they stepped towards him. Who told you that we need blacksmiths? Holding out his hands, Naruto asked for the men's weapons. Spinning them around, he took the end of it and smashed it against the wall, breaking the black blade in the process. Hey! Those are expensive to replace. Naruto smiled kindly as he took out a kunai from his own pouch and handed it to him. This is a kunai that I made. I used relatively basic metals and spent only a couple minutes on it. But more importantly, it can withstand even the force of a katana. Before being a warrior, I am a craftsman. The Kuzanin looked at him disbelievingly as they felt the iron. It certainly did seem strong and the boy appeared to be genuine. Also, the boy emitted a fairly low chakra level, only about the strength of a fairly strong Jinan. And only ninja who were Anbu captain or higher were able to mask their chakra like that. Even if this boy was a teenager. Well, they needed some weapons anyways. Why not take the chance? Alright, you can come in. But only if you make us some good weapons. But keep it a secret, alright? The guards missed the smirk on Naruto's face as they led him into the village. No problem, ninja-san. Chapter 7, His name is Kisama. Somewhere in Rain Country, a dark cave, outlined by menacing stalagmites under a myriad of cold candles, held a throne of stone in the middle of it. As if a wondrous palace had been petrified, the walls of the castle were etched in moss with the remnants of lichen pooling in an aggregate mass near the corners of the royal halls. The rocks were moist and their wizened lines of stratification showed their age. But to the one man sitting in the center of that majestic and horrible hall, the details of the area had little effect on his conscience. Rather, the man frowned as he clenched his fists. Every time he used the body transfer, his Sharingan drained a lot of energy from him. A full week was necessary to regain at least half of his chakra. Yet a week in stasis was a weakness he was barely able to tolerate. At present time, Itachi was controlling Akatsuki in his name. Itachi. Closing his eyes, Madara smirked as he thought of the young prodigy. It had been fortunate that he had harvested the young talent early, convincing him that power was everything. The boy would grow strong, take over his younger brother's body, and ultimately provide himself as a perfect host for him. With Uchiha Sasuke as his body, he would finally be able to take Konoha from those wretched masses and build a power that would usher in a new age, the time of the Uchiha. Wrapping his fingers against his concrete grove, he allowed a smirk to cross his features as he felt all the pieces of the puzzle form. Finally, after 300 years of bitter work and research, everything was now pointed in his favor. However, as quickly as his hopes had escalated, a dark shadow started to form over his daytime optimism. But then again, there was that wild card, Uzumaki Naruto. There were still many mysteries revolving the boy, mysteries that needed answers. The Mangekyou was a Sharingan heard of only in legends, its power was supposed to be of the gods. Yet, how did this boy, who did not even have Uchiha blood in him, carry such eyes? Closing his eyes, he smiled as he lit an Amaterasu above him. As it hovered, he watched the flames dance in an intricate manner. In any matter, the boy was not an immediate threat to him. He could always take care of the enigma later. For now, he needed to put his efforts into building an army capable of overthrowing Konoha. Kusagaku. Naruto walked through the grass village as his eyes traveled to different vendors and stores. It seemed as though the village was structured after Konoha, the lush vegetation serving as training areas for ninjas while the main city was filled with the normal denizens of the tranquil village. Hey, move it faster kid. Technically, you're not supposed to be here. So if anyone finds out, we're pretty much screwed. The two ninja he had tricked before growled angrily as they anxiously looked from side to side. Nodding, Naruto continued to don a fake smile as he quickly walked with the two. However, something in the corner of his eye caught his attention as he stopped to inspect it more carefully. Looking at the large wooden sign posted above the main street, Naruto's eyes shifted with interest as he read the large, bold words. Think you're the strongest in Kuza? Wanna get some quick money? Wanna win a legendary prize? Wanna earn a free training session from the legendary Masaki-sama? Then join the Kuza tournament today. Winners will receive all the mentioned prizes. So sign up now. Don't bother kid, that thing's staged. Naruto turned around as he saw the two ninja with identical smug expressions. Yeah. We're both chonins, yet we haven't even gotten close to winning that tournament. One of the contestants is a student who was trained by Masaki-sama. He's won every tournament since the first one. It's just a village ploy to get some money for the city without taxing the hell out of us. Naruto narrowed his eyes as he pointed to a nearby crowd lining up in front of the same sign down the street. Then why are so many people signing up? The Kuzanin smiled as he pointed to the sign. Regardless of any common sense people might have, the prizes are too great a temptation for them to pass up. The legendary prize refers to Kuza's greatest treasure. It's the sword, Kusanagi, or grass cutter. Supposedly, the origin of our village comes from our leader using the sword to cut down the 8 heads of the serpent Orochi. The heads then transformed into the jungle you see today, hence our name, Kusa. But that's not even the real prize. Naruto quirked his eyebrow with interest as he urged him to go on. The real prize is something even more priceless. A free training session from the legendary Masaki-sama is the greatest thing you could ever have in the world. The other Kuzunin joined in as he nodded. Yeah. Even though Masaki-sensei is over 300 years old, they say his training is able to make a Jonin stronger than a Jounin in just 2 weeks. Of course, he has a policy for only training one student, and that's the winner of the tournament. Also, it was said that he fought against one of the co-founders of Konoha, Uchiha Madara, and won. Naruto's eyes sharpened in an instant as he grabbed the man by his arm. What did you say? The Kuzunin, startled by his sudden movement, tried to shake him off as he rubbed his arm. Oh, that he can make a Jonin. Not that. You pug-eyed idiot. Naruto's sudden acerbic tone caused them to wince as he looked them dangerously in the eye. What did you say about Uchiha Madara? The Kuzunin, given the chance to gloat about his village a little more, took the bait as he excitedly repeated. He was able to defeat Uchiha Madara when he was younger and walk away without getting hurt. Also, I heard that he defeated the Uchiha's eye techniques with his own special jutsu. Naruto's eyes widened as he clenched his fists. So there was a method to defeating the madness. Not bothering to spend any time on the 2 Kuzinins, he walked over to the sign-up table. Hey wait. Kid, where do you think you're going? Naruto stopped as he coldly looked back at them. I'm signing up for the tournament. What you said interested me greatly. The Chunin looked at each other nervously as they stood in front of him. Well, you're not supposed to be here in the first place, so let him enter. The 2 Kuzunin turned their heads as they saw a strong-looking man in his 40s with a gray grizzling beard and spiky hair jutting out in all directions. Looking at Naruto, the newcomer smiled familiarly as he winked. Ah. Kurogari-kun. I was wondering when you'd show up. Naruto's eyes met the man's as he tried to follow the man's words. From the mischievous glint in his eyes, he was able to tell that the man was playing a game of sword. Deciding to play along, Naruto took the man's constructed query and replied, Yes. I am sorry that I'm late. The man looked at the 2 Kuzunin as he pulled out a badge. I'm a council member. This is my nephew, Kurogari-kun. I made him try to sneak into the village to test the security. It seems as though you two have failed though. This merits demotion. The 2 Kuzunin paled as they bowed down to the ground. We're sorry, honorary council member. We'll be more careful next time. Please forgive us. The man stroked his grizzly beard as he bent down to look at them. Okay then. We'll keep it a secret. Come Kura-kun, you've made it just in time for dinner. Not knowing what to do, Naruto kept up his guard as he nodded. Turning to the 2 Kuzunin, he then responded coldly. You should have done a more thorough check. If I had been a renegade ninja, you would have put your village to danger. Turning away from his uncle, Naruto then walked over to the sign-up sheet as he signed his name. Looking warily at the man again, he then walked up to him as they strode past the ninja. Walking quite a distance, they then entered a forest clearing as Naruto's anticipation continued to rise. Had the man found him out? Was he going to attack him in the forest? Walking a few paces further, the man then suddenly stopped, causing Naruto to also stop with a chary gaze upon the man's back. However, the man then grabbed his chest as he started to laugh boisterously. Ha ha ha. That was great, kid. You played along with it like a pro. Naruto couldn't help but smile at the man's infectious personality. The man seemed like a good guy, but he would still need to keep his distance. Yes, as soon as I saw your eyes, I caught sight of your little game. The man looked interestedly at Naruto before nodding. Yeah, you sure have some good eyes. But don't you think you'd be able to see me better without that henge over you? Naruto jumped back suddenly as he pulled out his chokudo from thin air. In an instant, his face changed as he adopted a sharper gaze. Who are you? His eyes widened however as the man suddenly disappeared from view, making him seem as if he had been talking to himself. Looking around, he couldn't sense the man's chakra at all. To move that fast required a strong burst of chakra. But then, how was it that he couldn't feel any? Behind you, kid. Naruto quickly did a 180 as he swung horizontally with his chokudo. He was shocked however when he saw it clutched in the man's hand nonchalantly. With a little pressure, the man then broke his precious blade into pieces. He had little time to mourn though as the man then tossed the broken shrapnels away and latched onto Naruto's left hand. Oh. You're pretty fast. You're starting to interest me more and more. Frowning, Naruto activated the Mangekyou Sharingan in an attempt to use Tsukiyomi, but was shocked to find that the man's eyes were closed. Deciding to unleash Amaterasu instead, The man seemed to catch his intent as he crushed his hand with his much larger one and made him fall to the ground from pain. But it's getting pretty annoying talking to an illusion form. Let's see your real face. Taking 2 fingers, he suddenly hit Naruto's forehead. In an instant, Naruto felt all of his chakra release as it dismissed the technique. Letting go of him, Naruto then dropped to the floor as he glared at the man dangerously. How? How did you do that? Struggling to get up, he felt his whole body weighed down with an immeasurable weight. And what did you do to me? The man laughed as he sat down on a nearby tree trunk and crossed his arms. As I thought, you're really young. And more than that, you're incredible at controlling your chakra. What I just did was to simply seal your chakra for a few minutes. The reason why you feel so weak is because that's what you really are, weak. Naruto swore as he felt his chakra start to move back into his coils. At this rate, he wasn't even able to run at normal speed. What do you mean, I'm weak? The man grinned as he helped Naruto stand up and walk to a nearby tree trunk. You better sit down for this. Basically, everything you do from jumping to running is only possible because of your chakra. Due to your incredible control, you're able to strengthen your muscles and push them far past the normal capabilities of humans. But without your chakra, you're as weak as a little 9-year-old boy. Naruto glared at him as he tried to move his arms. I'm 10. Yeah, whatever. The man waved him off as he continued his explanation. Anyways, while your chakra ability and control is probably the greatest out there, your taijutsu skills are worse than a puppy's. Of course, you make up for that weakness with chakra to speed up your body. Naruto clenched his fists as he felt his chakra finally flow into fingertips. I see. It was a weakness, that was for sure. He had always been aware of it, but had not thought of correcting it. If he had fought a serious Hyuga, that one weakness might have cost him his life. He would make sure to fix that in time. But there were more important matters at hand. Disconcerted that the man was still closing his eyes, Naruto sighed as he tried the traditional approach to interrogation, conversation. Who are you? What's your motive? The man pulled out a bingo book as he flipped to the back. Ah, here it is. The 1 million real criminal, Uzumaki Naruto of the Jogan. Naruto sighed as he rubbed his eyes. This bounty thing was getting ridiculous. So the motive is money? The man heavily laughed as he shook his head. Nope. I was just curious as to why such a kid like you is here at our village. Plus, I was bored and wanted someone to play with. Naruto looked at the man carefully as he stood up. I'm planning to go to Kusa for some information. I don't want to make any trouble. The man grinned as he patted Naruto's shoulder with his big hand. Then why did you want to sign up for the tournament? Naruto paused as he steeled his gaze. That's my business. The man frowned as he saw Naruto's features suddenly become colder. But despite my vague answer, please tell me who you are. It is only fair since you already know my identity. The man grinned broadly as he did a strange pose. Firecrackers rang in the background as the man shook his spiky hair and jumped on a rock. I am the wonderful and talented Kisama-sama. Naruto resisted the urge to smack his head as he struggled to reply. Your name is a derogatory term. The man grinned as a strange glint shined in his eye. Yes. It's what makes me so strong. But that takes me to my next point. Pointing dramatically at Naruto, he yelled as the surrounding forest followed through with a strange gong noise. I want to train you for the tournament. I refuse. I have my own schedule to follow. The man suddenly deflated as he slid off the rock. Muttering to himself, he paced back and forth as he rubbed his beard. After a couple minutes, he then jumped up as he smiled. Oh. Then how about we make a deal? We'll have a short sparring match. If I win, you become my student. If you win, I won't tell anybody who you are. Naruto looked at him curiously as he shook his head. Why are you so bent on teaching me? I can't help but think that you'd have an ulterior motive. The man hummed for a minute before grinning. I've been pretty bored for a while. I'm not allowed to enter the tournament or leave this village, so things have been pretty droll. Also, I need a good punching bag. Naruto's sweat dropped as he shook his head. This man was ridiculous. Yet he had shown a speed and power that had surpassed him before. Perhaps he could learn from this spar. I see. I accept your deal. But please forgive me for not taking you seriously earlier. This time, I will use all my strength. Before that though, please answer a question. The man smiled as he flexed his arms. Using his right hand, he made his fist punch right through a large oak tree. All right, one question. Taking out Genin Hayami, Naruto's face hid behind black and white as he crouched low towards the ground. Are there any other people in Kusa who are stronger than you? The man smirked as he settled into a different fighting stance. Yes, there is at least one other who is stronger than me. Naruto's face broke into a genuine smile as he felt Hayami and Gen rattle with excitement. That's good to know. Jumping up, Naruto pushed off a nearby tree as the chakra in his legs gave him an accelerated boost. The man disappeared like before though. Predicting this, Naruto used chakra to send a shockwave out of his left arm, allowing him turn around in mid-air. As he had expected, the man reappeared right behind him, or now in front of him, with a large fist in tow. Using the flat side of Gen, he blocked the attack and pushed the man off. Springing forward, he then stabbed with Hayami and made the sword pass right through him. The two of them looked at the strange sight before the man finally hit Naruto away with his fist. Sliding on the ground to absorb the impact, Naruto looked at Hayami strangely as he felt the blade with his other hand. How come the sword had simply gone through the man's body? It was definitely a solid blade. Was it a strange effect of being a spirit sword? Naruto had no time to ponder as the man followed up with a kick that was blocked by Gen. The man refused to let up though as he continued to punch and kick, each attack being blocked by the black Kadachi. Pretty good blocks there kid. Though, I'm not going to let you attack me with that blade. Continuing his onslaught of attacks, Naruto barely managed to keep Gen in front of him as his Sharingan spun wildly. During the entire course of the fight, the man had not looked into Naruto's eyes even once. Moreover, he had not even been allowed the luxury of concentrating to form Amaterasu due to the Kisama's quick attacks. However, as he blocked more and more attacks, he began to feel his sword arm become heavier and heavier. Were the attacks causing that great of a strain to his muscles? Continuing to block with Gen, Naruto clenched his sword tightly as he felt it pulse violently. Looking closer at it, he noticed that it had turned into a fine shade of dark red. Realization hit him as he felt his arm begin to droop even more with fatigue. It wasn't his arm that felt heavy, it was the sword. Jumping back, Naruto opened up a 2-second time window as he looked at Gen. At the rate he was going, he wouldn't be able to win. He needed to do something about Gen's weight first. Feeling his sword arm almost drop to the ground, he almost ran into Kisama's following uppercut. But at the last moment, he weakly pulled Gen up in a weak attempt to block. The sword suddenly glowed as he swung it, releasing a blinding red flash of light. The effect was instantaneous. The now crimson Kadachi gleamed a fantastic red as it shot out a giant, red crescent shock wave of malicious energy. The large crescent beam of energy shot upwards between the two as it swung around and cut through the tops of various trees before finally flying off into the expanse. Looking around, he noticed that the attack had even formed in the space. Smiling, Kisama noticed Naruto's baffled expression as he took the time to charge his own chakra for a counterattack. That was a very good attack, boy. But now, it's time for mine. Shaking his head, Naruto forced his mind out of the gutter as he felt the man collect a vast amount of chakra in his body. Ninpa, Hitotsu Haranki, Ninja Arts, First Flash. A pure wave of energy shot out of the man's body as Naruto's eyes widened. The blast was too big to avoid, even with the sunshine. Gritting his teeth, the blonde unconsciously put Hayami in front of him as he braced himself. To his shock though, the blast simply disappeared once it touched the blade, the giant orb of energy seemingly cut by the simple action of keeping Hayami in front of him. The two looked at the sword in equal bafflement before Naruto finally grinned. It seemed as though he had gained two very special weapons in Kiri. Jumping forward, he sheathed Hayami as he swung Gen at the man's neck. However, before he could follow through with the attack, his body suddenly turned numb as his limbs refused to move. As his reticular activating system stopped functioning, his eyes closed as the midnight black Gen slipped out of his limp hand. Ooh oh, where am I? It was dark and cold. Turning his head to the side, he felt some warmth hit him as he tried to go near it. What was it? Trying to reach for it, he felt his frigid body slowly begin to thaw as a comfortable peace settled over him. You finally awake, boy? Naruto's eyes snapped open as he sat up. It was nighttime and he had been sleeping next to a fire besides the behemoth he had fought earlier. Looking at him carefully, he noticed that Kisama was holding Gen and Hayami with his hands while smoldering blisters burned through his skin as he held them. The man hadn't seemed to have sensed his pain however as he looked at the swords with an intense gaze. Amazing. Where'd you get these swords, boy? Naruto sweat dropped as he saw the skin of the man's hands start to fall off. Your hands are burning. What kind of a place your hands are? Looking down, the man then screamed as he dropped the swords. Aghh. Oh my god. My hands are burning. Running around in circles, Kisama did a strange dance as he rolled around on the floor. Is he an idiot? Naruto couldn't help but wonder as he saw the man begin to hop up and down while hooting like a monkey. As if he had heard his thoughts though, the Kisama suddenly turned as he pointed at Naruto. Ah. You just called me an idiot, didn't you? Naruto's sweat dropped again. An idiot who can read minds? Kisama coughed slightly as the pain seemed to abate and sat back down next to the campfire. Well, As I was saying before, I found out that my hands were burning. Naruto almost did a double take as he noticed that the man's hands were completely fine now. Had the strange dance actually done something? Where did you get those swords? Naruto frowned as he took the two swords and sheathed them in their respective scabbards. They were given to me by a good friend. Kisama smiled as he patted his knees. Fair enough. But tell me, do you know what these weapons are capable of? Naruto thought back to their fight as he nodded. Gent seemed to get heavier the more attacks he blocked. After a while, I was able to send all the energy I had absorbed back at you. On the other hand, Hayami, while it wasn't able to attack you directly, was able to cut that attack you did before. I'm guessing that it can dispel chakra-based attacks. The man smiled as he nodded. You're a smart kid for figuring that out from just one fight. But there's something else. Look at your swords. Naruto frowned as he pulled them out. On the black sword, the fox insignia had formed two tails while the dragon on the white sword had gained a set of wings. I'm guessing that those weren't there before? Naruto nodded quietly as he inspected the changed insignia. According to old legend, the Kyuubi had 9 tails while the legendary white dragon had 6 pairs of wings. I believe that besides the normal function of being able to cut, your two swords also have more abilities hidden inside of them. The black one with the fox has shown the ability to strike back with one great attack after blocking several smaller ones. The white sword with the dragon was able to cut one of my strongest attacks, and as you said, it was not an attack you'd be able to cut normally. However, it looks like using those abilities take a severe toll on your body since it takes the chakra needed for it directly out of you. Naruto took the information to heart as he looked at his swords. Had he really acquired such amazing swords from Gensan? He had known that they were special, but looking at the man, he allowed a hint of a smile cast over his face as he looked at the man's serious expression. Perhaps this man was not just an idiot. Yes, that is why. The Kisama paused as he smelled something burning. Looking down, he noticed that his hand had been laying on the fire. Ugh! My hand's on fire again. Hopping around and rolling on the floor, Naruto sighed as he watched the man's antics. No, he took back all he had thought before. The man was truly a first-class idiot. What have I gotten myself into? Looking at his new teacher with exasperation, Naruto lay down on the floor as he listened to Kisama cry out to the world with pain. The next morning, waking up, Naruto looked at the now-dead fire as he stretched out his limbs. They had camped out in the forest for the night and had eaten fish after Kisama had recovered from his little episode. Looking around, Naruto noticed that the giant man was not there anymore. Shrugging, he was about to go scavenge the area for food when a sudden voice stopped him. Why? Naruto froze in his tracks as he looked up towards where he heard the voice. A shadow grew larger as Naruto quickly dove to the side, narrowly dodging the human anvil known as Kisama. Ah! Good morning, young Naruto. Today, we will begin your first day of death. Kisama paused for a second as he smiled. Oops, I meant training. Well, same difference. Taking out a bag from somewhere, he pulled out a giant set of leg weights and strapped them on Naruto. Immediately, Naruto felt his body fall to the ground as he tried to call on non-existent energy. What is this? Naruto managed to groan out words as he tried to move his body. Oh, those are just 100-pound ankle weights that seal your chakra. With those on, follow me. Kisama whistled as he walked past Naruto, the blonde glaring at him venomously as he slowly trudged after the spiky-haired man. Hurry up now. Every minute you arrive at the lake after me will be 10 push-ups. And I'll be sitting on you. Laughing devilishly, Kisama suddenly started running. Pushing his feet forward, Naruto's legs literally dragged through the dirt as he felt his entire body struggle to lift the weights. Was he really this weak without chakra? Ever since he had been young, Itachi had taught him to control his chakra to refine his strength. Was it, in fact, a disadvantage to rely so heavily on only chakra control? That's right. I can't stay the same. Mangekyou or not, I need to get stronger in all areas. This is training. Feeling a rush of adrenaline, he lifted his legs as he pushed his body to the absolute max. Muscles in his legs began to tear as he overstrained them, but the Kyuubi already healed the tissue after each new tear. Each time he felt another muscle snap, an excruciating pain shot up his spine as he faltered mid-step. Yet he continued to run with all his might, snapping and rebuilding his muscles in a continuous cycle of pain. After only a mile of such an activity, he began to already feel his legs become more accustomed to the weight. Since muscles needed to be strained to grow, the workout he was doing now was causing the strength capacity of his legs to grow exponentially. Beyond that, he was able to continuously do this rather detrimental process because of the Kyuubi's regenerative powers. Smirking, he felt his speed catch up to a fair jog as he wiped the sweat off of his brow. This Kisama certainly knew his stuff. Smelling a slight change in the atmosphere, Naruto recognized the nearing presence of a large body of water. Sure enough, after a few more minutes of jogging, he saw Kasami perched on a tree stump with a manic gleam in his eyes. "Good job, boy. But you should have realized the point of the exercise sooner." Taking out a clock, he smiled as he pointed to the hands. "Well, you arrived about an hour after me. That's 600 push-ups with me sitting on you." Naruto glared at the man as he resisted the urge to smack him. "Do you really have to sit on me?" Kasama grinned as he rubbed his beard. "No. But I could put the gigantic boulder on you instead." Looking at the said boulder that stood higher than the trees, Naruto sighed as he went into push-up position. "I'll take the idiot." "Ha ha ha ha. Hey! For that, you get another 50 push-ups." Jumping on Naruto's back, the young blonde felt the muscles in his arms and pectorals start to tear as he strained to lift the giant man up. "Listen carefully to me, Naruto." Naruto continued his push-ups as he opened his ears. The grizzly man was actually being serious, meaning that he had something important to say. "You may think I'm a child abuser or a sadist. Well, actually, I am." Naruto almost collapsed but caught himself just in time. "But really, the reason why I'm making you do these exercises is because you have one crucial flaw. The tournament is in 1 month, meaning that you need to be strong enough to defeat the strongest ninja in Kuza in that time." Despite the strain on his body, Naruto managed to grumble out a coherent question. "This man is that strong?" Kisama nodded as he sat in a more comfortable position on top of Naruto. "Well, let's just say that at this point, you have a 2% chance of winning," Naruto thought to himself as he closed his eyes. "That's not true. Besides Genin Hayami, I have another secret weapon." "Oh, about that Mangekyou Sharingan of yours, don't even think about using it during the tournament." Naruto suddenly paused as he bit his lip. "You know about the Mangekyou?" Kisama laughed as he slapped Naruto's head. "Of course. That description of that Jogan is totally wrong. Or maybe it's right. You do have a strange version of that cursed eye." Naruto continued to do his push-ups as the strain visibly showed in his voice. "How do you know about it?" Kisama became quiet as his voice turned grave. "My friend fought with someone who had the Mangekyou before." "Masaki?" The man arched an eyebrow as he looked at the boy. "Oh? You know about that old fart?" "Yeah, that guy's the one who fought with Madara. Although, Madara was only a teenager at the time." "I see. But tell me why I am not allowed to use the Mangekyou Sharingan during the tournament." Kisama laughed as he shook his head. "For a genius, you sure lack reason." "Then will the idiot please tell me the reason?" Missing the not-so-subtle insult, Kasami continued. "That tournament is watched by almost every ninja in Kuza. While I'm sure you're strong enough to destroy this village several times over, the ninja aren't exactly going to take it lying down. Also, you won't get your prize if you get found out. Remember, you have a 1,000,000 Ryo bounty on your head." "But what about my appearance? If I'm in a different form, will it matter?" Kisama slapped Naruto's head as he yelled. "Baka! You won't be able to fight in a hinged form. We'll just dye your hair and give you sunglasses." "What a simple method," Naruto thought as he shook his head. Perhaps it was not good to overthink things sometimes. Naruto then suddenly stood up, causing Kisama to fall over and knock his head on the ground. "Well, that makes 650 push-ups." Kisama grinned evilly as he grabbed Naruto's shoulder. "Oh, good job. You're quite fast. Tired, are you?" Naruto refused to show him weakness as he glared at him. "No." Kisama made a strange face that looked like a cross between a laughing chipmunk and a tortoise. "Good, because here's your next assignment." Lifting his hand dramatically, he pointed to the lake. "There." "The lake? Do you want me to run on the water?" The man shook his head as he pointed down. "No, what you'll be doing is much more difficult. Remember, I'll be training the hell out of your taijutsu. This is the final step before the real training." Naruto stepped back as he looked at the man warily. "Real training?" Kisama nodded as he suddenly flashed behind Naruto. "For this exercise, you have to be able to swim to the top to breathe because you'll be dragged down a lake by your weights." "Wait." Kisama used his right hand to punch Naruto's back, causing him to fly over the land and fall into the lake. Immediately, he plummeted as the weights on his legs caused him to fall down to the bottom. Holding his breath, Naruto watched helplessly as the water pressure began to crush his body as he fell for about 50 feet. Finally landing on the lake's floor, he struggled to keep his eyes open in the heavy water. The nitrogen in his body from the severe pressure had already filled his bones. A quick rise would result in horrible pain in his joints, an experience he was not fond of having. Yet, he needed to try to survive. Damn that crazy sadist. Pushing off with his feet, he managed to get up a couple feet in the water before the weights brought him right back down. Trying to swim, he barely managed to climb a few feet before his arms and legs gave out from the tension. The jogging and push-ups had already exhausted his body. True, the Kyuubi healed and reconstructed his muscles, but that did not mean that he did not lose the fatigue he gained from such actions. Attempting to climb up the watery depths again, he continuously kicked as he started to feel the futility of the action. This was starting to seem impossible. Feeling his lungs constrict with the lack of air, he opened his mouth as he choked. Forcing his mouth closed again, he looked up at the lighted surface of the water and felt his eyes move to the back of his head. A certain darkness overtook him as he felt his body release itself from the watery prison and transcend into the sanctuary of his mind. Will I die here? In this pathetic fashion by an idiot's training method? Naruto felt his limbs become numb as his muscles ceased to follow his command. Even if I did die here, what difference does it make? What was my reason for trying to get so strong in the first place? Was it just to find out about myself? Was it vengeance? Why am I chasing after that man? I can't remember. I feel like I'm falling. How long have I been underwater? You exist because you have yet to find your true purpose. Naruto's eyes shot open as the voice rang all around him. He was in a sewer of sorts. A dank and musty smell permeated his nose as his feet pushed against the still water below him. The water that had surrounded him before was gone, replaced instead by an eerie light that bathed his figure in yellow. Also, if he winced his eyes, he was able to make out strange kanji that shaped countless numbers of tomos on the dark and decrepit walls. Who's there? Come to me. Follow my voice. Ignoring the fact that he had been underwater just a few seconds ago, Naruto followed the sound of the voice as the dull lights above him outlined the sepia walls. Feeling a large presence to the left of him, he walked through the hall as he stepped into a large room, the size of at least a small village. But the surprise didn't stop there. On the way opposite end of the room, two monstrous eyes gleamed out from the darkness behind old dungeon bars. And so, we finally meet. I am the Kyuubi no Yoko, the most powerful of all the Bijou. Naruto felt himself drawn to the prodigious creature as he felt a strange sense of awe come over him. This creature had been the source of his pain in his childhood. He should have felt rage. Yet, what did you mean by find your purpose? Regardless of the millions of other questions he had wanted to ask, for some reason, the blonde couldn't help but reiterate the question that had seemingly brought him there. The Kyuubi showed its wicked teeth as stray wisps of red chakra boiled off of its red fur. Do you know why you have the Mangekyou Sharingan? No. First, do you know exactly what the Mangekyou Sharingan is? Naruto slowly shook his head. The Kyuubi's chakra shot up as it licked its teeth. Interesting. The boy who connects the present to the past has no idea of his situation. Pitiful human. Those cursed eyes came from demons. Before the newly instated god Izanami ascended to heaven, he had mated with a human woman and had twins. Her child gave birth to what would be the precursor of the Sharingan, while the other would consummate with another low-level demon to form the Byakugan. The precursor to the Sharingan, called the Mangekyou, was an entirely different dujutsu than the Sharingan you know today. The wielders held the power to control demons. Also, they had another unusual ability that disappeared after a couple of generations. However, after time, the descendant of the child who held the Mangekyou had a child with a Byakugan user. This gave rise to the Sharingan. Of course, that eye technique is an imitation of the true cursed eyes, but as for the other line of Mangekyou users, the majority of them turned insane for some reason. The ones who still had the true Sharingan quickly died out as the new Sharingan became the mainstream dujutsu. And after about 1,000 years, the bloodlines of Sharingan and Byakugan had developed as separate entities with little side effects. Yet the gene for the Mangekyou still lives in the Sharingan. Able to come out with horrible atrocities like killing your best friend, the true form manifests itself through the sin of guilt. However, it is different in your case. Your Sharingan was originally different to begin with and it has changed again. The first Sharingan you had was the original Mangekyou Sharingan. This was because of my influence. As a demon with an immense amount of yokai, the Sharingan was able to find its original roots and open up to its original form. But then that begs the question, how did you have the ability to use the Sharingan in the first place? Naruto felt a silent fear overtake him as the menacing gaze of the Kyuubi bore into his soul. Despite his fears, he boldly questioned. Tell me, Fox. The fox's grin grew wider as it laughed harshly. Very good. I tell you the truth, when you were born and had me sealed into you, you were stolen and injected with that Uchiha Madara cells. Normally this would have disrupted your genes beyond repair, causing you to die, but I kept you alive by using my chakra to bind his alleles to your chromosomes, thereby effectively creating a new being. You are, in fact, a mix between who you should have been, and the man known as Uchiha Madara. Naruto's eyes widened as the information threatened to tear his mind. He held a part of that monster in himself? Was this the reason for his unexplained obsession to find him? Who was he really? Just a clone? A product of an experiment? He wanted it to be a lie. No, he needed it to be a lie. Closing his eyes, Naruto unclenched his fists as he remembered all the people he had killed. The act had been so natural, so simple. It seemed that fate had marked him even before birth, with that man's heralding. However, for some strange reason, this news, rather than discouraging him, seemed to invoke another strong feeling also, curiosity. So in the end, I am just a candle lit by coincidence. But tell me, who was the one who made me like this? The fox said nothing as it gazed intensely at Naruto's pale face. Realizing that he wouldn't receive any answers, Naruto sighed as he let it go. He had learned enough about his mutated heritage for one day. The fox probably had some good reason. Looking up at the giant demon, Naruto wondered where this strange trust came from as sheer power billowed through the bars. For all he knew, the demon could have been lying. Whether for psychological warfare or for some other random reason, everything he was experiencing could have been forged by the fox. Yet, this strange attraction dismissed these thoughts as the blonde began to feel a strange comfort from the fox's presence. After a few moments of silence, Naruto looked back up as he scanned the near desolate room and looked up to jail bars. In the center lay a large parchment of paper that had turned black with decay. "Is that the seal that holds you in this cage?" The Kyuubi growled as one of its tails slammed against the cage. "You are correct. Yet, that man's cells are causing problems for me. The Mangekyou was originally a cursed eye, as you know already. Not only will it bring pain and suffering in the future, but you will also lose the light of your normal eyes." "Blindness?" "Yes. However, I have been constantly using my chakra to attack this curse. Even now, I am constantly healing your eyes. Also, whenever you use that black chakra of yours, you're actually using a corrupted form of mine. Hence, all the techniques of the Mangekyou come from my chakra." "Then why do I still suffer chakra depletion?" "Let me continue, idiot peon. Anyways, this was true until your little incident back in Kiri with the tattoo of yours. For some reason, it's been feeding more off of your chakra now. To compensate for this, I have been feeding you some of my own chakra." "Why are you helping me?" The Kyuubi grinned widely as it started to laugh. "Help you? Don't be ridiculous. This is all for my escape." Shaking his head, Naruto sighed. He had expected nothing less of the demon. "Can you then explain why my Sharingan is different now? Before it was a cross." "The Maka's Mangekyou." "Don't interrupt me, Kyuubi." Naruto smirked at the slightly miffed Kyuubi before continuing. "But now the cross is more like an X with kanji in each of the 4 spaces." The Kyuubi paused for a second before replying. "You should know that answer already. The Sharingan evolves when one kills their best friend." Naruto's eyes widened as the image of Hayami suddenly flashed into his mind. Horrific realization dawned on him as remembered. That traumatic day, filled with rain. Although he had not killed her with his own hands, was fate and the universe saying that she had died because of him? Biting his lips, Naruto slammed a fist on the concrete floor as he swore. "Damn it. So that's why they changed." Swallowing the bile that threatened to climb into his mouth, he irrationally turned his anger to the Kyuubi for reminding him of the incident. "Feel what you want, human. But realize that everything is your fault. If you are weighed down by such events, you are not worthy of such eyes." Naruto spat as he activated his Mangekyou. "You think I want these? If it weren't for these eyes, I would." "You would what?" The Kyuubi smirked as it saw Naruto's fury start to fade. Naruto struggled to say that he would have been happy, that he would have continued to live a happy life with his 2 brothers in Konoha. Yet something deep inside of him told him that if he had never held such eyes, he would have never met Shisui or Itachi. Holding his breath, Naruto suppressed that horrid image of Hayami into the deeper regions of his mind. "I am sorry. Even if I am not thankful for such eyes, I should not have lost my temper. Please, tell me more about these eyes." At least you're able to compose yourself. "Well, about your new Sharingan, I have no idea. You'd be better of asking someone who's been alive the last couple 100 years. Or better yet, you should just ask that man, Madara. He seems to be knowledgeable of such matters." Naruto lightly smiled as felt a little bit of his spirit return. "Ah. So the almighty Kyuubi doesn't know everything." "Shut it, insignificant cockroach." Naruto shrugged as he walked closer towards the cage. If I wanted to, I could probably control you with the Mangekyou, right?" The Kyuubi growled viciously as he tackled the bars. "Just wait a couple of years. I'll have a wonderful time crunching your minuscule body under my fangs when I escape." "Yes, that's fine." Naruto waved the remark off as he stepped even closer. "But now I come to my final question. Why the hell am I down here?" The Kyuubi shifted positions in its small cage as it did an action that resembled a shrug. "Because you're dying. And you will die, unless you hurry up and find it." Naruto looked at him quizzically. "Find what?" The room started to blur as pond blue mixed with gray and a sudden chilliness overtook him. And while the Kyuubi's menacing visage faded, a thunderous voice echoed through the disappearing room. Your conviction. Do this well, young one. Both of our fates depend on it. Naruto's eyes shot open as bubbles leaked out of his mouth. He was back at the lake's bottom. However, his eyes were dimmed somewhat as he felt a weariness act upon his body and spirit. So, that was the Kyuubi no Yoko. He didn't seem like the monster from the books. Drifting his thoughts, he also remembered another revelation. I also have cells from Madara. That would explain the Sharingan, but as for my conviction, this feeling of revenge seems so empty. Looking up, Naruto saw the faintest glimmer of light on the lake's surface. It seemed as if he were in a physical setting of where his life stood. He was dragged down by the darkness of his own heart, anchored by his curses. Yet, if he looked up, he was able to see a whole new world, beautiful and incredible in its foreign shape. Despite his will to grasp that light, he could not reach it. Perhaps, he had thought that he had reached it back when Itachi and Shisui had taken care of him. But now, with his chakra gone, the only reminder of Itachi's givings, he was left alone to sink into the despair of isolation. So, it ends like this. The boy with the million Rio bounty, dead in a lake. Death. The idea of it was not new to him. He knew that he would die eventually. But, looking at his hands, Naruto's eyes widened as he saw his hands shaking. Despite being so close to it, why did he seem to fear it so much? Even though his mind seemed ready, his body still tried its hardest to live. And then, it hit him. He was afraid of dying. He was terrified of not knowing what his purpose had been. An experiment? That was only half of him. The other half, the true Uzumaki Naruto, wished for more. Who would he have been if he hadn't discovered this curse? Would it have been better? Closing his eyes, Naruto smiled softly as images of Shisui slapping a sleeping Itachi came into mind. A few others of Azawari's ramen-eating antics and Natsume's card tricks brought another twitch to his lips. Finally, Hayami's bright smile and Gen's soft voice filled his heart. Even if fate had taken these things from him, should he not be grateful for having seen them in the first place? Unknowingly, he had surfaced towards the light each time he had met them. Though he was alone in the darkness now, Naruto yelled as his lungs filled with non-existent air. His muscles trembled as he felt them be pushed past their limits. Even if I'm alone right now, Naruto's mind filled with his memories as he crouched low towards the ground. For the sake of a better future, his body tensed as dormant power threatened to explode. I will live on and fight. Ooh-oh. Kisama whistled as he sat down on a rock, reading a copy of Icha Paradise in pure bliss. The kid was foolish. Every time he had attacked, the boy had responded in such a way that put his own life in danger. Though it was not good to be afraid, it was also stupid to not have any caution. Twitching his ears, Kisama grinned as he closed his book. The guest he had sensed from before had finally come. How'd you get all the way here, you stupid brat? A bald man with a flowing white beard stepped out of the foliage as he leaned on a familiar cane. It's been a while, Masaki-sensei. Kisama grinned as he turned around and laughed happily. Gen-kun. You've gotten pretty old. Last I saw you, your spry little arm was spitting out all kinds of swords. But really, the name's Kisama now. Gen smiled as he rearranged the letters in his mind. It was just like his master to scramble the own letters of his name to form some ridiculous word. Sounds like something you made up the spur of the moment. Masaki smiled as he patted his former student on the back. Yeah. But I was pretty surprised when you sent me a letter regarding the boy. I didn't think that he would be this bad. Gen looked at him questioningly. Masaki sighed as he brushed his spiky hair, a hint of his centuries-old wisdom peeking behind hazel eyes. That boy is strong, without a doubt. But his heart lacks true conviction and strength. Those necessary components are the only things that will help him grow from here on out. But really, did you have to make me train another one? Gen bowed as he placed his cane on the floor. I am sorry if it inconvenienced you. But this boy has come to be like my grandson, though I do not know if the thoughts are reciprocated. Masaki stroked his grizzly beard as he pointed at the man's back. So what do you have on your back there? Looks like a sword? Gen nodded as he took off the cloth package. This sword was left at my shop by Naruto. It might have been chance that he had found this. But Masaki's eyes widened as he took the sword from Gen's hands. The entire thing was white, the rebuffing done by Gen's masterful hands themselves. The handle was beautifully made in a style that had been lost centuries ago. Taking one hand, he tried to pull the blade out as he found that he couldn't. Is this? Gen nodded as he humbly took the blade and put it back in its cloth case. Yes, it belongs to her. Masaki stared at Gen for a while before suddenly exploding with laughter. You should have told me sooner, Gen. To think that the chosen one was standing in front of me this entire time. I thought that he was just a useless brat that you had taken a liking to. Seems like we old geezers have got things to do yet. Gen smiled as he suddenly felt a strong presence emanate from below the lake's surface. Well, I will be taking my leave for now. I can't have Naruto knowing that I'm here, since he's already cut all ties with me. Placing the sword on the ground, he bowed one more time before picking up his walking stick to walk out of the forest. Just before he entered the forest though, Masaki's voice called after him. Hey! Pausing, Gen stopped in his tracks as his old eyes stared into the bleak forest in front of him. That boy, Naruto. He really does care about you. The name of his swords. The white one was Hayami and the black was called Gen. Gen took a deep breath as he kept his back to his former master. I see. Thank you. With that, the old man walked into the forest, leaving Naruto and Masaki behind in the open area. Shaking his head, Masaki grinned as he looked at Gen's retreating figure. Stupid brat. I know you're actually really happy right now. You never did like showing your emotions. Looking down at the sword, Masaki picked it up as he raised it above his head. Well, can't have him finding this too soon. I'll give it to him after he finishes training. Making a seal, he then rammed the sword, handle end first, into his right palm, making it seemingly disappear into his body. Looking towards the lake, the water ripple as he smiled. Good job for finding it, boy. Your conviction, that is. In that moment, the water exploded out of the lake as Naruto flew a couple dozen feet into the air. A spiraling vortex of water followed after the boy as he flipped out and landed on the ground. Masaki posed as he smiled in what he believed to be a hip fashion. Well done, my young student. But you must always. He was abruptly silenced by the tidal wave that followed the boy's landing. A few moments and a lot of drying later. Masaki knocked Naruto's head over for the umpteenth time as the blonde glared at him. It wasn't my fault that you were standing so close to the shore. Well, you should have been more careful instead of getting all flashy. Naruto took his now dried shirt and put it on before sitting down. His previous words echoed in his mind as he shook his head. Had he, someone who had renounced his own life for revenge, actually said something like that? Looking at his master, he sighed as he leaned against a nearby tree trunk. Although he had promised to live and keep trying, an immeasurable weight still seemed to pull down on him. As if sensing his student's sudden depression, Masaki drew some sticks together and made a fire. You know, life is similar to this fire. All humans live off of some kind of fuel. Sometimes it's money. Other times it's love. However, despite whatever fuel it might be, if it is weak, your fire will also be small. That's why, you must find your fuel, your desire to live. Naruto looked up at the man as he smiled. You just made that up, didn't you? Masaki's eyebrow twitched as the remark hit the truth. Damn brat. Naruto's eyes flickered as he observed the fire. Still, it was very good advice. Thank you. The two shared a rare and comfortable silence before Masaki slapped himself on the head. AGH. Because of our entire ordeal, I had forgotten to make you begin your next training. Naruto looked at him as he clenched his arms. He felt an incredible power now, one of confidence in his own strength and not his chakra. Was this really the effect of just one day of training? But it was strange. Even though his muscles seemed much stronger, they had not changed in appearance. I have a question. Masaki looked at him interestedly as he nodded. That underwater training, though crude, has developed my muscles far past what I had possessed before. How come the size of them didn't change though? Masaki grinned as he poked the boy's arm. I'm glad you asked. The human body has 3 types of muscles. The first is red muscle. This has a lot of strength, but little stamina or speed. Most samurai specialize in developing this type of muscle. The second type is white muscle. This is common in ninja since they need a lot of stamina and speed rather than strength. However, the final type of muscle is a cross between the two. Called pink muscle, the amount of it doesn't change in your body throughout your life. However, through unusual training methods that push your body past their limits, your entire body can be converted to pink muscle. This would give you both speed and strength, while allowing you to be flexible. Right now, your body has been converted to 100% pink muscle. Naruto flexed his arms as a new strength echoed through them. True, if it had been anyone else, they would not have been able to survive the training due to his advantage of carrying the Kyuubi's healing properties. But still, it was incredible that he was able to attain such power so quickly. With this, he might stand a chance against. But don't be in such a hurry, brat. Even if you have the pink muscles for the job, it doesn't mean that you have the ability to use them. It takes masters dozens of years to learn to use their pink muscles, and that's while they're developing them. For someone like you who's gotten them in just one day, you don't stand a chance on using them to their fullest potential. At this point, your taijutsu would only show marginal improvements in terms of power. Naruto frowned as he clenched his fists. So it was hopeless? But there's a method that will help you utilize them effectively in time for the tournament. Naruto's head shot up as he looked the man in the eye. Of course, it'll be super dangerous and I can't guarantee your safety. But let me do it. Oh? Masaki looked at the determination behind Naruto's eyes before grinning. I was going to wait until tomorrow, but it looks like you'll be ready today. Naruto stood up as he stretched out his back and flipped up. Masaki noticed with interest that the weights hardly bothered him anymore. So what's this training? Masaki's face grew maleficent as he laughed evilly. Your training with me is done. Everything you did today was preparation for your real training. Normally, people need to do this preparation training for at least a few years, but you seem to be a special exception. Now, the next step is to train with the real masters. Naruto blinked as he repeated after him. The real masters? Masaki nodded. It'll be in an area where 1 week equals 1 year. A place that puts continuous strain on your body due to the multiplied gravity. You'll have to fight for your life against puny insects. Masaki grinned evilly as he cracked his knuckles. Naruto, you'll be training under the 6 boss animals in the summon world for the next 4 years. In 1 month, you will return to the real world automatically. Masaki bit his thumb as he made kanji with blood on Naruto's forehead. The blonde barely had time to react to such an action. A blinding flash of light and a gust of wind later, Masaki was left alone in the forest as the blonde disappeared from the world. If you don't die, that is. Chapter 8, Training. Kisama, otherwise known as Masaki, sipped some green tea from his small cup as he looked up at the sky. A bird, screeching something akin to idiot, made his eyebrow twitch as it circled above the trees. Frowning, Masaki scratched his head as he thought about what he had just done. True, the boy was physically ready to go to the summon world, but to survive there, you needed more than just strength. His hand unconsciously went to his stomach as he remembered the horrible wounds he had suffered there. The summon masters were vicious monsters who loved to play with their prey. He had sent 2 students to the horrific world before and only one of them had returned. Actually, to this date, no one had even finished the course. He himself had had to come back during his fight with the 6th boss. Maybe he should have trained him a little more to have prepared him for the trials. The bird above continued with its screeching as Masaki growled. He wanted to think and this stupid bird wouldn't shut up. Twitching, he snapped his fingers as his chakra shut up. The screeching bird was no more. Laying down, Masaki looked up at the forest top as he sighed. Hopefully the brat would come back. He would get in trouble if he had just sent the chosen one to his death. Raising his palm, a white katana in porcelain sheath leapt out as it landed neatly into his other hand. Admiring it for a while, he put it next to him as he closed his eyes. He's probably getting used to the gravity right now. Well, hopefully he'll learn fast enough to take on the first boss in his first year. Ooh-oh! Sasuke leapt before swiveling around midair while parrying several shuriken. Feeling a presence to his left, he closed his eyes as he let his body react naturally to the oncoming kunai. Twisting in a manner that would make even the most accomplished acrobat green with envy, the young Uchiha filled his arm with chakra as lightning exploded out of it. Reikiri. Sprinting forward with incredible speed, he made 6 bunshines with one hand and made them go in front of him. With a sudden human wall in place, he then used an earth jutsu to sink into the ground while he made a cage bunshine to take his place in the rear. This all happened in the duration of 2 seconds, making it seem as if he had simply charged forward behind several clones. The target, a large man with trench knives, dropped his cigarette as he jumped up into the air. Motioning to his left, he smiled as he saw his partner Anko launch several of her snakes into the ground. A few seconds later, the real Sasuke exploded out of the ground as 6 snakes followed after him. Cursing, Sasuke brought his Reikiri down on them, switching via Kawamari right after to avoid wind-powered trench knives. Temporarily safe on a tree branch, Sasuke bit his lip as he saw his third opponent finish off his bunshines. He hadn't noticed, however, that another had been waiting for him on that very tree. Congratulations, Sasuke. You did very well this time. Sasuke's eyes widened as he looked up to see his sensei smiling. Yo! Sighing, Sasuke raised his hands as he conceded the battle. Alright, you've won again. I'll go and get lunch. Dropping down to him, Kakashi ruffled his hair as he nodded. Make sure you get some for Asuma, Anko, and Ebisu, alright? I'm sure they're hungry too. Sasuke smiled as he knocked Kakashi's hand off of his head. Yeah. Jumping down, Sasuke briefly greeted his teachers as he jogged past them towards the main village. Thinking back to it, this kind of training had been going on for quite a while now. The news about making the graduation age 14 was still enough to make him sour though. In actuality, the ploy to keep the students in the academy for 2 more years was because of him. Clenching his fists, Sasuke cursed the council as he remembered what Kakashi had told him. He wasn't supposed to know, But that scarecrow sensei of his was never one to really follow orders. Supposedly, the council feared that Sasuke would go bad like Itachi or Naruto. Itachi he could understand, but Naruto. Sasuke spat as he thought of the ordeal. If anything, he was a genius. He was great, but he was no evil guy. He had often seen the blonde laughing like a goof whenever Shisui-san had visited him. Unlike his brother, Naruto was not one to betray his family, but even then, the council's reasons for trying to hinder his strength were strange. It wasn't as if they didn't let him get stronger. Hell, he had private tutors who helped him increase his strength exponentially. No. It was more like they didn't want him to go out of the village. All ninja, Jinan included, were able to partake in missions outside of the village. Was it a question of loyalty? The Uchiha shook his head as he cleared his thoughts. Either way, he needed power. Power to find out the truth for himself. About his brother, and about Naruto. Running straight towards Ichiraku's ramen stand, Sasuke waved hello as he smiled brightly. But really? Betray the village? That would happen the day Naruto gained a Sharingan and destroyed half the planet. Very unlikely. Oh. Haku was a satisfied girl. Well, she was a happy boy. Actually, it didn't matter what her sex was. She was content with her life. However, things had been getting stranger lately. Zabuza-sama had begun to drink a lot more and their missions were starting to get a little shady. True, they had always taken obscure and pretty much illegal jobs, but this one was different. Haku. Pay attention to your surroundings. Haku shot her head up as she looked around. They had been surrounded by 6 ninja, all of them chunin or higher judging from their garb. Bowing, Haku smiled as she drew out 6 needles. I apologize Zabuza-sama. I will dispose of them immediately. Zabuza huffed as he unhatched his Zanbato. His silence represented his trust to her skill. The last few years had been good to her. She had already surpassed the level of a common jounin and had fully realized the potential of her unique bloodline. As if practicing a routine, the 2 rogue ninja flew through the 6 ninja as they skewered them to pieces. Working in tandem, Haku paralyzed them with her needles before Zabuza slashed them into pieces. After dispatching the last one, they continued their journey towards their client as Haku donned her hunter nin mask. You've grown quite attached to that mask, haven't you kid? Haku smiled behind the porcelain mask. Do we not all have masks we hide behind, Zabuza-sama? Zabuza frowned as he stayed silent. I'm sorry, I speak out of place. As your weapon, I should be limited to answering your questions. It's okay. Just hurry up so that we can finish this job. After this, we should take a short break. Hi, Zabuza-sama. Arriving at the edge of the woods, Zabuza motioned for Haku to stay hidden in the trees as he entered a large domed complex. The area surrounding the building had an eerie air that invited melancholic feelings. Stepping forward in monotonous rhythm, Zabuza creaked open the door. Light from the setting sun flooded the interior as he saw a solitary person sitting down in the center of the wooden shack. The man cryptically smiled as 2 sharp earrings hung from his ears. As if he had been waiting for that one meeting, that one moment of time his entire life, the man on the chair stood up as his voice slithered across the room. You are Momoeki Zabuza? Zabuza immediately felt his senses flare as he took a step back. This man was no normal customer. He couldn't sense any chakra, but the very aura of the man seemed to make the atmosphere thick with poison. Despite his discomfort though, Zabuza stood up straight as he asked semi-politely. And what the hell does a man like you want me to do? The man stepped forward as yellow gleaming eyes shined brightly in the dark room. Putting his hands in a seal, the man's head suddenly stretched as he bared his fangs. Reacting with the instinct of an elite ninja, Zabuza slashed down with his sword as he jumped back, the fangs barely missing his bandaged neck. Jumping out of the shack, Zabuza flew through a series of seals as the moisture from all the trees and plants around him flew together to form a giant water dragon. Suiten, Suryudan. The figure smirked as the dragon tore through him, the water slicing him into pieces. Understanding that the man was far from gone, Zabuza used hand motions to tell Haku to stay hidden. He had felt the girl's chakra flare as soon as the man had attacked him, but for now, he needed her to stay hidden. Eyes widening, Zabuza jumped up as several snakes flew out of the ground. Using his giant sword to cut off their heads, he was dismayed to find that the man's chakra signal had disappeared completely. Had he run away or? A fist suddenly smashed into Zabuza's face as he flew several meters. Smashing into a particularly large tree, the masked nin felt blood rise up his throat as he quickly took off his bandages. Eyes glaring with demonic intent, the demon of the mist dragged his sword behind him as he grinned. This man was not your average ninja. The fighter's blood in him stirred as he clenched his Zanbato tightly. Like a doll, the man stood not 10 meters from him in a slumped posture. Long black hair streamed down his face as purple makeup outlined his snake-like eyes. Ah! Zabuza-kun, I never answered your question, did I? Zabuza became wary as he eyed the man. Well, to tell you the truth, there's a tournament held in Kusagakure in about a month that I want to attend. However, there's a troubling participant there who I don't have the confidence of winning against. Zabuza frowned as he saw Haku waiting in the corner of his vision. And what does that have to do with me? The man smiled evilly as he crouched down. You are needed to be my sacrifice. To summon a certain man. Zabuza spat as he raised his sword off the ground. You freaks keep giving me the weirdest jobs. The demon of the mist is not a plaything. Even the devil himself does not amuse himself with his servants. The man laughed sinisterly as he pointed at Zabuza. Kukukaku. Demons serve the devil. That is their purpose. Therefore, if you are the demon who serves the devil, then that theoretically implies that I have complete control over you, since I have often been called a devil just as you are often called a demon. Of course, in the hypothetical situation that you are a demon and I am a devil, then we would have to abide by the 77 laws of servanthood that say. Zabuza's eye twitched as he lifted his sword above his head. Oh God, I can't believe I'm having a technical discussion on demons with a snake freak. Looking at the myriad of snakes hanging above his opponent, a little spark triggered in Zabuza's prefrontal cortex. Speaking of which, standing up straight, Zabuza returned his sword to his back and crossed his arms. Judging from your techniques and fighting style, I'm guessing you're the Konohama Nin, Orochimaru. You could always be one of his students, but I doubt someone of your caliber would serve the man. The snake man stood up straight as he smiled and applauded him. Very good, Zabuza-kun. But will this information hurt you? After all, I am a Sannin, applauded as one of the strongest ninja in the world. Does a mere jounin like you stand a chance against me? Zabuza closed his eyes as he made subtle movements with his body. He and Haku had decided on a system of communication that used brief and extremely small movements for quick messages. At the moment, he was telling Haku to stay back at all costs. Oh. And about your little friend in the trees. Zabuza froze as his eye shifted towards Orochimaru. I think I'll take him also as a souvenir. That did it. Something in Zabuza roared to life as he sprinted forward, sword first. He had no idea what made him take such a rash action. Yet in that 2-second time frame, something in his mind screamed. Despite his claims of Haku being a weapon, he knew that it was completely wrong. The kid was his friend and had become something similar to a daughter. Missing the smirk on Orochimaru's face, Zabuza plunged his giant sword through the man. However, Orochimaru's body had split into 3 parts and had flown in different directions. Zabuza seemed to have anticipated such an action, however, as he quickly made seals. 3 water clones sprung out of the ground as each one latched onto an Orochimaru. Mizubanshin Bakufa. The clones blew up in torrents of water as Zabuza panted heavily. The explosive water clone technique was even more difficult due to the immense concentration needed to sever the cohesive properties of water. Closing his eyes, Zabuza raised one hand as he covered the field in fog. If he wanted even a chance of escaping, he needed to turn the situation towards his favor. Opening his ears, Zabuza's world erupted in terms of heartbeats, footsteps, and breath as he integrated himself into the cover of invisibility. What is it that you are truly after? Zabuza asked menacingly from his cover. The mist had a speaker effect that made his voice seem to come from all directions, making it a strong technique for disillusioning his opponents. Coo. Zabuza's left eye twitched. It was that damn weird laugh again. I already told you, Zabuza-kun. Someone of high ability is needed as a sacrifice. You seemed like the perfect specimen, strong taijutsu, strong ninjutsu, and tolerable genjutsu with fierce kenjutsu strength to add. Also, Orochimaru licked his lips as he charged chakra into his hands. No one will even notice the loss of your existence. Zabuza smirked as he tightened his grip on his blade and closed his eyes. Yeah. You're right about that. But you know, I don't really care about those things. Rather, that annoying tongue is bothering me right now. Meanwhile, in the trees, the arboreal Haku clenched her crimson fists as the slickness of her palms held her back. Why didn't he want her to help him? Deciding to trust him, she kept her chakra low despite her feelings and crouched down low. Their opponent was a Sannin and she could not underestimate his abilities. Cloaking into the foliage, she watched with a heavy heart as Zabuza furiously attacked the laid-back snake Sannin. Please don't be reckless, Zabuza-sama. Or I will step in despite your orders. 2 weeks later, Masaki picked his nose as he rolled some of his boogers into a ball. Flicking it, he blew a hole into a nearby tree as it fell down to join countless others on the ground. Ah. This is so boring. I should have made that brat come back sooner. I can't even go into town because of the jutsu too. Jeez. Yawning widely and laying down on the grass, he scratched his back with his toes and plucked a few random hairs from his beard. The grass tournament was in 2 weeks, and until that time, he had absolutely nothing to do. Well, At least he wasn't in the boy's position. 2 years had already passed in the summon world, meaning that, ideally, the boy would be on his third animal boss. The first animal boss, the Monkey King Goku, would teach the boy taijutsu and staff skills. The second boss, Manda, would teach him a different style of taijutsu while also giving him lessons in nerve blocking. Masaki winced as he remembered all the times the damn snake plowed through his shoulder. Thankfully, all the animal bosses were able to hedge into a more humanoid shape, making combat slightly easier. After all, trying to spar with a 200-meter-long snake was not the easiest of tasks. Smiling, Masaki fondly remembered the third boss. That one was, by far, the most helpful. The slug boss, Katsuyu, actually had a beautiful humanoid form. She had taught him his favorite technique, the one he had used against Naruto that had temporarily blocked his chakra flow. That technique was incredibly useful against people who depended on chakra to do almost everything. Now, the fourth boss, Gamabunta, was a somewhat strange teacher. They basically had drinking contests. Besides learning somewhat in ninjutsu, that boss really didn't teach him much. Well, actually, he was supposed to learn kenjutsu, but he had never taken a liking to swords. It helped that the final test from Gamabunta was to drink 40 gallons of sake in one go. Wincing, Masaki clenched his stomach as he recalled the fifth boss. Inraya, the Fire Hawk Lord, was easily the most brutal out of all of them. He knew almost every kenjutsu there was in the world and was an incredibly strong flame user as well. His Heaven's Flame probably rivaled the kid's Amaterasu. That boy was in for a world of pain. Pitying the blonde, Masaki frowned as he thought about the final boss. Although he was able to barely beat Inraya at full power, the sixth boss was on a whole other level. Shaking his head, Masaki closed his eyes as he basked in complete silence. Don't die, Naruto. You still have 2 years to go. Hopefully you don't have to fight the fifth boss before time's up. I concede to you. Your prowess has proven itself in combat. A giant tiger bowed down low as the figure in front of it sat down on a tree branch. Long blonde hair swayed in the wind as cerulean eyes shifted to red and back to blue. That's it? You're the sixth boss? You didn't put up much of a fight. That toad with the 40 gallons of sake was much harder to deal with. The tiger, now a man with flowing gold hair like a lion's mane, stood in front of the boy as he crossed his arms. Usually, people don't get past me. I don't think I've ever had someone as young as you even get to me. But I guess the generations get stronger. Well, congratulations. Naruto stood up as he tore off the remnants of his black shirt and stepped up to the tiger. So what do I do for the next 2 years here? Nothing? The tiger grinned as he sat down and crossed his legs. I never said that no one had ever gotten past me. When you beat the 6 animal bosses, you then have to face the true final boss. Naruto frowned as he thought back to what that bastard old man had said. What do you mean? The tiger lifted 3 fingers as he gave a primal smile. Of the mythical creatures, which ones are the most famous? Naruto thought for a second as he tried to recall memories of his childhood. He had never been one to get wrapped up in myths, but he had listened to his fair share of stories. The dragon and the phoenix. The tiger boss grinned as he shook his head. Wrong, kid. Although that's the typical answer, they are the Oni, Tengu, and Kappa. Naruto narrowed his eyes as he whispered the names to himself. He had never heard of them before. The entire time you've been here, you've been watched by these 3 lords. In 1 week, one of them will appear before you and teach you all that he knows. That will take up the remainder of time here. Good job getting this far. I hope you turn out to be even stronger than you are now. Bowing, Naruto walked away as he blurred through the trees. Watching the boy's fading silhouette, the tiger frowned as he walked into his cave. Hopefully, the boy will still be human after this. The bestial nature of man is always brought about by the masters. Haku tore through the trees as blood soaked her shirt and dress. Her hunter-nin mask hung loosely at her side as tears flew off of her face. Despite the severe wounds on her legs, she pressed forward as she cursed with all her might. Right now, she needed to find someone who could help her and save Zabuza. Yelling with all her might, her body took one last heave forward before it fell into an open clearing. Losing her consciousness, light faded from her world as she lost her thought in the midst of one bewildered Masaki. That's the end, guys. If you enjoyed, then make sure to leave a comment. This is Chaos Shinobi signing off.